What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I am back with a video. This time once again, we're going to look at one of ESPN's top analysts, that being Kendrick Perkins. In this video today, Perkins is going to make his case to why Kevin Durant is the best and greatest scorer in NBA history. Now me personally, I disagree with that, and I'm going to give my side of the argument as to why KD is not the best scorer of all time. So with that being said, let's get right into the video. Now, for some very quick context, Perkins in these following clips, he's going to evaluate Kevin Durant's game, his scoring ability, he's going to compare him to Jordan, and also look at his efficiency compared to other NBA greats. And like I said before, I'm going to debunk his points and show why Kevin Durant isn't the best scorer in NBA history.
Oh, you know what? LeBron James is top 5, but when I go with the greatest scorer of all time, I'm going with Kevin Durant. And here's why. When you talk about a guy that has zero flaws offensively, Kevin Durant has everything and more in his offensive arsenal. He has the mid-range. He has the post-up. He has the handle to the hezzy pull-up tray ball.
So, stopping the clip right there, a common argument I hear in favor of Kevin Durant is a vast amount of ways he can score the basketball, from 3, the mid-range, the post, at the paint. Kevin Durant offensively for a scorer is extremely versatile. But when talking about the best scorer in NBA history, being the best in multiple aspects doesn't make you the best overall scorer. To prove that point, let's compare two players in 2022, who I will not name, and look at their scoring from every aspect on the floor. Looking at the player on your left, he shoots better in the paint, the mid-range, from corner threes, as well as above the break threes. That player on your left, who is a more versatile scorer, is DeMar DeRozan. The player on your right is Giannis Antetokounmpo. So think about this really clearly. Giannis offensively, his scoring options aren't as versatile as DeMar DeRozan. But when talking about being a dominant scorer and being the best scorer, Giannis is undoubtedly better than DeRozan. Look at their past 5 years scoring the basketball. Giannis beats DeRozan in every single category, shooting higher in the field every single season. Now, just because DeMar can score in more ways, are you going to say he's a better scorer than someone like Giannis? For me personally, I would not. The same thing goes for other great centers like Wilt Chamberlain, as well as Shaq, even Kareem. Those guys score primarily in the paint and around the basket. And looking at someone like Kareem right now, he's the NBA's all-time leading scorer, only making one career three-pointer. Does that make Steph Curry, Devin Booker, Dame Lillard better scorers than Kareem? I would say no, because Kareem was so dominant at his one aspect that he excelled at, just scoring in the paint and around the basket. The same thing applies to Kevin Durant. Yes, from all areas he can score and is very versatile. But in terms of being the best scorer, it doesn't matter where you put the ball in from. All that matters is that you score points and you get buckets.
See, here's the difference between KD and everyone else. Yes, he's 6'11", 7 foot, but his jump shot, his efficiency. The other night he had 38 points on 15 shots, and he does those things on the regular. If Kevin Durant really wanted to, he could have about 10 to 11 scoring titles.
Now, stopping the clip right there, I always hate that argument. When NBA analysts say, oh, if that player, if he wanted to, he could do this. Trying to downplay a player's accomplishments, and the guys who actually do it actually average 35 points or even 30 points in a single season. Yes, Kevin Durant offensively is an all-time great scorer, but being a great volume scorer has never been KD's role. And as Perkins says, Kevin Durant is very efficient. But once again, being the most efficient scorer doesn't equal the best overall scorer. As someone like Steph Curry, I would argue, is more efficient than Kevin Durant. In Curry's career, he has the most 50-49 games of all time, more than Kevin Durant. He has the highest 50-40-90 season of all time, where he averaged 30 points per game, and for a single year has the highest true shooting percentage in NBA history. And looking past the hypothetical argument, let's look at Michael Jordan, the real greatest scorer of all time, and look at what he actually did in his prime. From 1987 to 98, Michael Jordan was the NBA's leading scorer every single year. At his highest, averaging 37.1 points per game, and at his lowest, averaging 28.7. During that stretch in total, he averaged 32.0 points per game, the highest in the NBA. Looking at Kevin Durant's best scoring year ever, that was in 2014, where he also averaged 32 points per game. And lastly for this clip, the one thing I do want to point out is looking at Jordan and Kevin Durant when it comes to playoff scoring, taking 25 plus shot attempts. It's a very fair comparison, looking at both players when their volume scores. But as you'll see, Jordan, his stats are far superior to one Kevin Durant, averaging more points with better shooting from the field and a bigger sample size. And expanding the scope a little bit further, when both KD and Jordan take 30 plus shots, Michael Jordan's efficiency actually gets better as well as his scoring, compared to Kevin Durant, whose shooting splits get worse when he takes more shots.
Just remember, he sacrificed a lot when he went to Golden State to play with Steph and Clay. But Kevin Durant, when it comes to a guy that gets buckets at an efficient level, has zero flaws, I'm taking him all day as my greatest scorer of all time.
So once again, Perkins in his argument for saying KD's the best scorer of all time, he's not focusing on actual scoring and being the best in that aspect. What he's focusing on is efficiency and being the best in that regard. As when it comes to Michael Jordan, his scoring resume is simply better and greater than one Kevin Durant. He has more 30-point seasons, more 30-point playoff runs, more 50-point games, 40-point games, 30-point games. He has more scoring titles, more consecutive scoring titles, a higher scoring average in the playoffs as well as the finals. He has more 50-point games, 40-point games, 30-point games when it comes to NBA Finals. I mean, the case for Jordan being the GOAT scorer is heavily overwhelming in his favor, and I could list off stats for days proving Jordan is the best and greatest scorer in NBA history. And in regards to efficiency, I would say Jordan in that respect is actually kind of underrated. Unfortunately for me though, the shooting split stats weren't tracked from 1997 when Jordan was 34 years old. But even with that being the case, looking at the rest of his career from 97 to 03, he was pretty effective when it came to scoring basketball from all aspects. In the paint, shooting 48%, mid-range 46%, jump shots 44%, corner threes 42%, and above the break threes 27%.
When he went to Golden State, he really had no choice but to kind of defer and buy into that
I agree
system.
with that.
Right? He had to share the wealth. I'm not saying that he couldn't have took over the team, but he went there to ultimately win the championship. That's what I was talking about. Because KD has the mindset. And listen, this is no knock or disrespect to Russell Westbrook. But if you could win 4 scoring titles playing alongside Russell Westbrook, you're a problem.
So I think Perkins right there actually had a pretty good point when it came to Russell Westbrook and those Thunder teams. Go watch OKC's games from the 2010s. Their spacing on that floor sometimes was absolutely dreadful. And KD, for his time with Westbrook, he averaged 28.4 points per game on 49% shooting and won 4 scoring titles. With that spacing, definitely very impressive. But one thing I will say in favor of Jordan, in his era the spacing was worse than in KD's era. Specifically before Phil Jackson and the triangle offense, where Jordan still averaged 33 points per game on 51% shooting and won 3 scoring titles. Also in the late 90s, the pace of play, the overall style, it was really bogged down by big man, it was defensive, and it was arguably the toughest defensive era in NBA history. So once again, props to Kevin Durant, but I would say in Jordan's era it was clearly hard to score the basketball due to spacing as well as physical defense.
Here's my counter to you about Jordan. Jordan was never part of the 50, 40, 90 club. You know why? Because he didn't shoot the tray ball like that.
No, he didn't.
He does.
But nobody did back then.
Larry Bird was part of it.
But look at the volume. He could do it, but the amount of attempts, if you compare that to guys in today's game, is different because the game was played differently back then.
Now, stopping the clip right there, Perkins, I think, exposes the flaw in his argument. As you saw, he brought up efficiency in the 50-40-90 club. Unfortunately for Jordan, he was never a part of that club. But like I said before, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, as well as Larry Bird are members. Does them being more efficient scorers make them better scorers than someone like Michael Jordan? Even comparing Steph Curry to someone like Kobe Bryant, Steph objectively is a more efficient scorer. But is he better than Kobe at putting the ball in the basket? My personal opinion, I would say no. The same thing goes for KD versus Jordan. KD objectively is a more efficient scorer from nearly all aspects. But Jordan, just like Kobe, is the better overall scorer and the better player at putting the ball in the basket. And my last point in favor of Jordan, looking once again at his prime in the playoffs, from 87 to 93, he averaged 34.6 points per game, the highest during that era. His shooting splits were 50.2% from the field, 35.7% from 3, and 83.3% from the free throw line. By no means did Jordan during that time period have a weakness when it came to shooting the 3-ball. And if you wanted to shrink that sample size down to the 90s, Jordan during that time period averaged 34.3 points per game on 50, 37, and 84 splits. Once again, Jordan efficiency-wise and shooting the 3 is definitely up there with the best players in NBA history.